This is my 2021 Toyota Tacoma named Girth Brooks, and today we're going to put portals on girth, making it even girthier, and I've got some one-of-a-kind interior ideas that I've never seen on any truck that if you're looking for some inspiration on how to organize your interior and what kinds of things would add usability and functionality, this is definitely the video to watch.
Off-road portals are a gear reduction box that bolts into the outside of the hub. I figure I'm going to start the video with that because I've had so many people ask, well, what are portals? This is a gear set that's going to bolt into each hub. We're going to put 4 of them on the truck, 1 on each hub. The big benefit for portals is that you get much more clearance under the axles. In this case, we're going to have 2 inches of clearance because we're lowering it under the front axle, and we're going to have 4 inches of clearance under the rear diff. And I'll explain why in this video, why it's different front to rear. But the main reason that I have sought out portals for this Tacoma is because it desperately needs gearing. This is going to give us a 23% reduction in gearing, and that's going to allow me to gain back a couple of overdrives when I'm on the highway, but it's also going to gear my low range down 25%, which is a huge deal because it'll help keep me from cooking this transmission when I'm crawling over big rocks.
Portal boxes also reduce the amount of load that is required to turn a tire from the rest of your drivetrain leading up to the portal box. And what I mean by that is essentially the portal is wicking away some of the tension from the rest of your drivetrain and then shouldering that load because it's a reduction box that is magnifying the torque, the twisting force of the rest of your drivetrain. And because it's magnifying it, it requires less strain on the rest of your system, which is really, really nice. On top of that, we're also upgrading from a semi-float rear axle shaft to a full float. This is a giant upgrade because even though we're going to have the same 35 spline inner shaft that I have in this Ford 9-inch rear axle, which is super strong, that axle shaft is no longer responsible for the side-to-side load and hits that come from a tire. Now that axle shaft only has to be concerned with twisting force, so 100% of the strength of that shaft is used to turn the tire and no longer hold the tire weight onto the vehicle.
Now that we have a couple of portal boxes mounted on here, we can talk about the cons. There are so many pros to portals, but the cons are just as important to consider. One is the ability for a portal to bend an axle tube. We have compounded the stress and strain that our tires can now inflict onto our axle tube. So check this out. We have this big leverage point here now because we've offset. The center of our wheel used to be the center line or match the center line of our axle. Now we've moved that down. So we have this extra arm, this extra leverage point to be able to inflict more force into the end of your axle tubes. The factory Toyota Tacomas are notorious for bending axle tubes anyway. So whenever you add this big portal box on there, like what is it going to do? It's going to be harder on the axle tubes. This is an aftermarket axle from a company called Fusion 4x4. They make a drop-in Ford 9-inch that goes right into the Toyota Tacoma. They're phenomenal. This is an outstanding rear axle. It's very, very strong. The tube thickness, I want to say, is 1/2 inch. So like the likelihood of us breaking this is very low. However, the portal box is only being held on by 4 bolts. What the portal box is hanging its weight on is actually a little bit of snout that comes out of the end of the axle. And so this like slides on there very, very tightly. And then that makes it to where that's actually what's doing the bulk of the heavy lifting here. However, I'm going to feel so much more confident if I throw a gusset from here to the bottom of our portal box and add 2 more holes. There's already 2 holes back here pre-threaded for guys like me that think about this kind of stuff. And so we're going to spend like 2 hours. We're going to build 2 really quick gussets at a 1/2 inch plate. And then we're going to have 6 bolts holding this thing on instead of just the 4. And these 4 bolts are sized to hold a brake backing plate on. So I have confidence that this is strong enough, but 74 Weld does a lot of testing, but I'm sure you can see what I'm saying. We need to add some beef where it makes sense. Another issue is this is a 3-link in the rear. I am concerned about the strength of that upper link because again, we're taking that leverage point and we're growing it. We're making it to where if I'm running the same size tire, let's say I run a 40 on here without a portal box versus a 40 with a portal box, the 40 with a portal box is going to inflict much more pain on all these suspension components because we've increased the leverage that 40 has the ability to inflict that pain onto all of these parts and pieces.
The rear axle is probably the easier of the two, and if we didn't do this extra fabrication work, I mean, this is just a couple hours worth of work, and boom, you've got portals on the rear axle. And of course, the clearance difference is absolutely insane.
What an insane thing to do. Drop quick. That's a quick shoot. I saw some spring. There's not really any ways of bed right now either. Yeah. Dude, it's not tall. It just barely looks taller than before. Not bad at all. No. Let's put a little bit of weight in there. Yeah, that looks just barely taller than it did before. Not crazy at all. Is it gonna do it?
I mean, that's kind of unfair, but.
Yeah!
Jeez, man.
If you want to save money on 74 weld, ARB, Barnes 4-wheel drive, Method bead grips, Red Arc, and even Marlin Crawler, then become an elite member with today's sponsor, Onx Off-road. Not only do they make amazing software that's extremely intuitive and easy to use, but it's what all of my friends and I use. I've been using them for years, even before we partnered up on this channel. And if you're like me and you're always tinkering and improving your off-road truck, this is a way that you can constantly be saving money on every purchase, and it far pays for the membership in and of itself. And if you want to save a little bit of extra money on membership, use my coupon code or click through any of the links on any of my videos. I never thought I'd be cutting a bunch of thread off of the end of a very high quality, expensive RCV axle shaft, but this is required. This is part of the instructions in order to get this to fit inside of the portal, because basically this axle shaft just splines right into the portal, and then we're going to be able to thread the nut from like a little peephole that's on the outside, and then the whole thing goes together and marries perfectly up with our Marlin Crawler RCLT suspension system.
Finger destroyer.
Oh, that's aerospace tight.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of expensive, high-quality parts just so you can go drive around off-road, you know? They make perfectly good roads. We pay for them with our taxes. It's not gonna... Oh, Jesus. I was gonna say, it's not gonna like it. Just because it's got to push the tires out, you know? But,
Didn't seem to slow it down.
oh, we're on bump. So we do clear. Guess I'll let her drop all the way, huh? That's bump. The holes here. Oh, dude, it's like better than it was, way better than it was before, yeah, for sure.
You can almost just get a longer coil and
I know.
And then get all of it.
Yeah, I know. That'd be sick. As we're doing this, something dawned on me that I didn't think of before. Like as far as the new metrics of how this is all going to work in the front end. So we are going to have identical travel to what we did before, which is not news to me. I knew that was going to be the case. But I didn't think about it in these terms. We have a 4-inch lift from the portals, and then we dropped it about 2 inches or so by taking out a spacer. So basically what we're doing is, before we had very little down travel, we had a lot more up travel than down. But now we're gonna be flattening everything out, which is something that I've been excited about. So like our joints and everything are all gonna be in a neutral position at ride height, which is killer. But that's basically gonna make it to where we have even up and down travel. And I don't know how I feel about that. I like having a considerable amount of up in the front if I can. The only way we can gain more up travel right now would be to put a longer stroke coilover in here. This is a normal Toyota Tacoma Bill Stein, like upgraded coilover, right? Which is what like all lift kits and stuff are gonna have for these things. So because of the constraints of the height of the factory tower, it's only a 5-inch stroke coilover. I would love to get like a 7 or an 8-inch stroke coilover in there. But that means that we're chopping the towers out, and then, which isn't the end of the world, it's just not something I want to do right now.
While Nick slowly works his way through, buttoning up all the different parts and pieces associated with the portal install, I am going to build out this interior. And I've had this idea of like, God, it almost sounds corny to say out loud, but content creator interior. I want an interior of a truck that has places for me to mount a bunch of my gear in a way that I can make the absolute best off-road videos that I possibly can. I don't want to be fumbling around gear. I don't want gear to be put away in a bag and I can't access it quick enough and I miss a shot. I want to make something that is purpose-built for what I want to do, which is go off-road to really cool places and make rad videos for people to watch if they're interested. And so I'm going to start on that. And you saw earlier where I started messing with these like generic universal panels. These are just Molly panels. I like the look of a Molly panel. I like the functionality. And I think that through months of thinking about this and ordering parts and sitting on parts, I finally have a good idea of a path forward to make the ultimate interior that is custom tailored for exactly what I want to do with this truck. We have Corbeau seats. Corbeau? Cor something. These, I mean, I just couldn't resist. The plaid, dude. The plaid looks so nice. And Nick has been playing around with making these work in the Tacoma. So you can buy the seats with the seat brackets, but there's a whole bunch of seat sensors and all this stuff that Nick has been playing with that I am unfamiliar with. So we're gonna have him run us through exactly what he's got going on here.
So we want to retain the functionality of the airbags in the passenger seat, and there are sensors that let you know whether there's an occupant or not, and that toggles on the airbags. So obviously the Corbeau seats don't have those built in. So here they are, this sensor, and what I've done is compress them in a vise to simulate someone sitting in the seat, and then just built these steel bars that hold them in that position. And
then you put some structure going across in order to mount it all, so it's not just hanging under the seat.
Yeah, a bunch of brackets, and then this is the original bracket from the old Tacoma seat that kind of holds all the wiring together.
Yeah.
So I bolted that in.
I'd like to apologize that I didn't film any of this, but it was like me going to Iceland, me editing stuff, all this. Nick's been out here figuring out this kind of stuff, and so I haven't been out here to film it. But I will do some close-ups. And so for those of you that do want to put seats like this in a Tacoma and you are curious how we did it, I'm not advising you to modify your airbag system at all, but I will show you what we have done to modify ours because we have taken responsibility for ourselves. And you can kind of see what we did here. Also, Nick and I came up with this idea here. I wanted to have a place to mount, because this is a heated seat. This is a heated seat and it has lumbar support. And I wanted to figure out a way to mount the switch like on the seat instead of on the dash, because it's gonna be so much simpler. And so what we came up with was just building like a little blind plate that is gonna look so good when this is all finished and bolted in there. And Nick was able to shorten the harness and stuff that came with it. So now we basically have the factory plugs that plug into the seat, and then we have this wire right here, power and ground. They're gonna go, I mean, I've got a whole bunch of wiring stuff that's gonna go into here. So, what are you working on now? Oh, you just need to trick it with these. I forget what these were for.
Yeah, so these are 2 ohm resistors. Here's our...
They're 2? I thought they were 3. Are they 2 ohm resistors?
I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There are a couple ohm resistors.
So this is the old airbag plug from the other seats. So I'm going to wire the resistor up to this and then just plug it in underneath the seat there, and
hope it satisfies the computer.
Hopefully the lights go away off the dash. I don't know.
So to be clear though, we're not deleting the ability for it to do the airbag. What we're deleting is for it to toggle the airbag on and off depending on whether or not someone's sitting in here, correctly? Or
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because we don't want to delete airbags. I feel like the airbag system is just, there's a few things in here that are just they're too complicated. I would rather it just have airbags on all the time in the front. So if you get an accident, you have airbags. But they have to put all this extra stuff in here to sense weight and all this other stuff.
And so we're basically deleting its ability to sense that weight. And now it should just be default airbag, like all old cars were whenever airbags first started coming out. So we'll see. Either way, we are going to have a huge upgrade in seats because I was not a fan of the seats that were in this truck before.
I need to sit down and start designing out the deep cycle battery system that we're going to install in this thing. And while I'm doing that, Nick is going to button up these seats and then start working on the stereo. There's a company called Trail Grid Pro. I did a lot of research online, and this company makes stereo kits for Toyotas specifically. And they made this very simple install kit for a rear sub and a small amp to boost the speakers and the doors. I know that stereo installs are a little bit boring, but dude, this is the worst sounding modern stereo of any vehicle I've ever been in. It is insane. And when you look at the speakers side by side, you can clearly see why. I mean, the magnets in these factory speakers are so tiny, which is why I out-sing this thing big time. And yes, I sing, listen to podcasts, everything else you need to do on a long trip in order to stay awake. And so a stereo is just like, it is a very welcome upgrade, along with a new front and rear camera, also coming from Trail Grid Pro. So while Nick is installing that, I'm going to start playing around with some of these parts from Red Arc, reading the instructions, and figuring out the best way to design and implement all the wiring to do everything that I want for the next phase of life of this Toyota Tacoma.
What's up?
Go for it.
Like I said before, these Molly panels are for like some bed rack. They're not like a universal panel, but they're built for a bed rack, and they're universal enough in the way that they're cut that I can very easily modify them to meet my needs. And this ended up being a lot cheaper than paying per inch to have something laser cut for me and then having to go out and have it powder coated. So you can see I'm like cutting and shaping all these little brackets and tabs and stuff in order to make it all marry together, because this wasn't made to be the rear interior of a Toyota Tacoma. This is made to go outside in the elements on a bed rack.
All right, hit it.
Okay, rear cam
Yes.
and front cam.
I love that. Finally gonna have a front cam. And so the truck just has to be running, right? It doesn't have to be in reverse or anything. You just hit a button and then it goes in the front camera.
Yeah, even accessory mode.
And it's just integrated into the factory radio. I love it.
Huge shout out to Nick for reading instructions. This dude is always reading how to do things while I am busy guessing. It is very important to have someone in the shop that reads and has the knowledge to know how things go together. So anyway, he's pretty much done with this thing, and I'm wrapping up what my little project was, and we're finally in a position where we could start to actually look at the interior of what it's going to be.
For my own sanity, I wanted to build the ultimate content creation interior for this Tacoma. So in this door, you can see this is where the bulk of the storage is going to go. I've got a camera bag that'll go down here, and then a clothes bag that's going to go on top of it. Back here, there's a little like factory cubby that I would usually charge stuff before, and I think I'm going to continue to do that in that same location. So when I need to charge gear, I mean, you'll see, I've got charge ports kind of everywhere, so once I start using the system, I'll figure out where everything's going to actually file in. But we've got 4 110 outlets and 4 USB outlets right here. And then we have 2 more like cigarette style 12-volt outlets. I've got 2 different fuse boxes, and the reason that I did this is I wanted one that's going to control a bunch of things that I want to turn on and off with the truck. The other one is all powered from the house battery. So the way that I did that is with a voltage sensitive regulator, a voltage sensitive relay that turns on and off when it goes over a 13.3 volt threshold, meaning that whenever your truck's just sitting there and you're not doing anything with it, this voltage sensitive relay is off. As soon as you start it and the alternator starts to charge, then the voltage is going to go up to 14.4, which is like the industry standard for alternator voltage, and it's going to then energize this relay, which will then energize this relay or this fuse box. The reason that I did this is so like my radio, my heated seats, A couple other different things can all be powered off of that. And then whenever I turn off the truck, it's automatically going to turn off the heated seats. They're not going to stay on and just like roach my batteries. I did the exact same thing in my Suzuki Samurai with the 2 different boxes. The other one is everything else that I want to be powered from the house battery. So it's stuff that once I'm at camp, I can easily turn it all on and off, or leave it on if I want to, because I've got a crazy deep cycle battery. And because this battery is independent from the other system, from the starting system, not even a single watt will be pulled through the other system. It's all going to be coming through the house battery. I can run this battery to 0, start the truck up the next day with no problems. I wanted all of this to then get rid of the need to bring a portable battery bank. Portable battery banks are incredible, and I like that I can take it from vehicle to vehicle, but it's just another piece of gear you've got to fit in somewhere. This is just permanent, and the way that I built it, I'm actually gaining storage space. Instead of just folding all my seats forward and just making a mile-high pile of crap back here, I'm hoping to be able to split things up. This is going to end up being for a laptop. I'm going to build a threshold across the front so that as we're like leaning and moving around, any gear that's up here, like my laptop, will go into the threshold and not go into the window. And then here's where a lot of the magic happens. This is the RedArc Alpha BC to DC 50 amp charger and the RedArc 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter. And I chose these units specifically not only because RedArc is like the industry standard. I mean, they are the top of the heap when it comes to quality, but this BC to DC charger is tiny compared to the other one that I have in the Land Rover. And I really wanted that for this build. It just makes it a little bit easier to package. So the advantages of this thing is with the Land Rover, I have tons and tons of solar because I don't care that it's big and heavy. It's not a rock crawler. It's like an overlanding RV kind of comfort format that can crawl over rocks if they happen to be on the trail. This is a rock crawler that can camp comfortable. So because I'm looking at it through a different lens, we are going to add one very tiny carbon fiber solar panel, 80 watt, up on the roof. And the bulk of the charging for this giant battery is all going to happen through the alternator. Because this BC to DC charger, it can charge that battery up to 50 amps at a time. This 200 amp hour battery, which would take through normal charging, would take a very long time to charge. This is going to charge in just like a matter of hours, which is incredible. The reason that I wanted to add solar on top of that is that I have lots of trucks, and if this is parked somewhere on the property and I'm not going to use it for a couple of weeks, the way this charger is set up is that once the house battery is topped off, it will then redirect that solar energy into the start battery and trickle charge the start battery, no matter what the situation is. But we also have the added benefit of an 80 watt panel that will be, with the other RedArc, I need to read a little bit more on this particular RedArc product, but the other ones that I own and that I've installed, it will use as much solar as it can, and then it makes up the rest of it with your alternator. So if I am on a long trip, it's super sunny out, I'm going to be using that solar panel, the full 80 watts that it can make, and then the rest of those 50 amps that it's looking for to be able to charge that battery is going to be done with the alternator. These are side-by-side lights that are made to go for like side-by-side interiors that I got off of Amazon. They have red and they have white. Very simple. I've got 4 of them that I installed inside the cab. They all are pulled off the house power, which I think is going to be great because then when I'm at camp, especially if it's buggy and it's hot and I want to, I even crack a window or whatever, I can use red, and red is supposed to be a lot better at keeping the bugs off versus white. But most of the time I would just use white. Anyway, the rest of this. I installed the comms underneath the seat because I wanted to have, this is another Amazon purchase. It's just a generic GMRS radio. I've used name brand in the past and they don't seem to last any longer. Typically I use a handheld, but I am tired of just having a handheld floating around the cab and then it runs out of batteries and all that other stuff. So I wanted to have something that permanently mounts into the truck, and I have all the controls right here on the handset. And then I have a speaker that is then remotely mounted behind me. It's in between the 2 front seats so that while I'm driving, I'm listening to music, whatever else, I can actually hear it, because I've done multiple in-cab radios where the speaker is on the body itself. So if you mount it down low, you can hear it when you turn it all the way up, but it is easy to just kind of like especially if you're like bombing down dirt roads and stuff and it's really loud in the cab, it's easy to not hear it. But now we've located the speaker to where it's like right behind the driver and passenger, ear level. And I think that that's going to be a much better way to do this. I located this under the seat with just Velcro. I like double sticked Velcro onto the body and stuck it to the carpet. It sticks perfect under there. And this is going to allow me to keep things clean. I want to keep cable management like top priority in this project. Now for the phone mount, this is an OtterBox case. It's just like very standard for guys like me that are hard on their phones. You can get the little belt clip thing for it. This is the third vehicle I've done this in and I love it. So I just cut the back off of the OtterBox phone mount and then I attach like a 1-inch ram mount ball to the back of it and then boom. We have a phone case that is made for my phone. This is not a universal case. This is made to go, or a universal mount. This is made to clip into my OtterBox case. Works out great. Speaking of cable management, instead of using long cables everywhere, I'm decided to go to this stretchy style. And I located the phone in this spot specifically. Typically I have it high, but I put it in this spot specifically so that I can have very easy small length of cable between my phone and where it ties into Android Auto to the factory stereo. Speaking of the stereo, I look forward to finally firing this thing up and listening to stereo because this has had a terrible stereo the whole time I've owned it. I love music. I love podcasts. This is gonna be an important part for burning miles on those really long road trips. So I also wanted to keep the factory head unit. I think it looks right for the truck because the truck was designed around that. And with the company we went through for the front camera and for the stereo, it made it to where I was able to keep the factory head unit and it's gonna all feel like a stock truck. Well, let's just say stock plus. I decided to go with a tablet for navigation now instead of just going off of Android Auto or something else because that all relies on the phone. If I break the phone, I no longer have navigation, and I want to have navigation. Very important to me. This is gonna be linked up to the Starlink, so if it's an area that I forgot to download or we make a plan B or C, I'll be able to just fire up the Starlink and then boom, I've got navigation anywhere I need to go. This is a special mount that I have for a camera. Let me show you this. I think this is pretty cool. I found these little like quarter twist mounts on Amazon. I know I shop too much on Amazon. I know many of you I'm sure do too. But it's the easiest way to find this stuff. It's either Amazon or eBay, and there's nowhere locally that I can buy like a quarter twist mount like that. So then it makes it to where this action camera can now just be, boom, put on my selfie stick. If I need to get any shots out of the side here, selfie stick mode, and then I can go right back to mounting this little quarter turn mount right back on the dash. I want to be able to grab, like here's another mount. This mounts handheld camera. Very quick, easy, it mounts upside down, it's out of the way, it is no longer bouncing around the cab of my truck. Tell me that's not slick. Even if you're not into electronics and stuff, that is rad. So I have a special bag that is sized perfectly for my drone controller, and I have a special bag that is sized perfectly for my drone to just drop right into. So if I need any of this gear around me, I can grab it, get the shot, or grab it, hand it off to somebody who wants to help me film. Whatever the situation may be, I can grab my magnetic mount action cameras. You see me get shots like under vehicles and stuff occasionally. Boom, it's all right there. I've clearly thought about this a lot. And as you can see with these, I didn't talk about these. These are just little 6-inch USB-C by USB-C cables. I chose to use these. I chose this mount for the this upper rail, I guess you would call it, after looking at all of them specifically because it integrates charging capabilities right into it. So I can have short little runs of charge cables to both devices. The sub and amp are both mounted right behind this speaker, or sorry, right behind this driver's side rear seat. TrailGrid Pro sent this gear out. Incredible. I love when people make vehicle specific stuff like this because now I'm gonna have actual, like a powerful enough stereo that I can like sing and wail with it, keep myself awake on those long rides, and it fits so nice and tidy. So I love that. Then from there, we go to the fact that I wanted this to be a fun spot for the kids. We can still put a car seat in here, no problem. As you can see, I've got my son's tablet here, and for cable management, same thing. We've got this stretchy cable, and that's gonna make it to where if he needs to charge it, or if my daughter needs to charge hers, and they're sitting back here, they can plug in, and we don't have like 6 feet long cables just like draped all over the cab. That stuff drives me nuts. And then I decided to put I don't know, this stuff might move around, but the whole point of building this out of MOLLE is that I can take different types of MOLLE panel or pouches and I can weave them in wherever I need to. So for now, the first aid kit's gonna go right here, but once we put a car seat in here and a kid back here, we'll see if I wanna move this just because maybe it's too close to him. I have no idea. But we've got a little tray. This is just like made for MOLLE panels, and there's a spot now where they can set that.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a very long-winded interior walkthrough, but there are so many details with this interior and why I decided to go the different routes that I did. I figured I'm gonna get so many questions on this interior, I might as well do a full walkthrough so that you can see all the different like nuances and why I made the decisions that I did, and hopefully appreciate all the work and planning that went into building an interior like this. Side note, take a look at that Tacoma. Now that we're on all 4 tires, on portals, you can actually see what the height is, and no more speculation. I had a lot of people saying it's gonna be way too wide, a lot of people saying it's gonna be way too tall. This is not a very tall truck. This is like perfect. We're low enough and squatty enough that this is gonna be ultra stable, and we have an insane amount of clearance. So for perspective, we're about the same width as if I would have swapped an 05 and up Super Duty front axle into this thing and just got rid of the IFS. But we have miles more ground clearance, and I have the better gearing because we have that extra gearing from the portals, and I get to retain all the factory systems like crawl control and everything else that you have to get rid of whenever you go to a solid front axle in one of these modern Tacomas. So I've been saying I want to try to build the ultimate Tacoma, not because I want to win anything, just because I want to push what I can do, and I want to build a one-of-a-kind truck. And I think that we're nailing it. This thing's not even done yet, and just look at it. It is such a unit. Seriously, it does feel so much better. You definitely notice the gearing of the portals, no doubt about it. I thought that whenever we finished the Re-Girth of Girth Brooks, that it was going to be done, but as we were modifying this truck and working our way through all of these little details and adding gussets and building out a custom interior and all this stuff, I thought of some more stuff that I'd like to do later on. For now, we just did a little test run. We put some miles on these portals so that we can dump the oil, put some fresh oil in, and now I'm going to drive this truck 16 hours to Moab to go wheeling for a week so we can test this thing. Let's test all these mods. Let's see how much body roll does it have now. I want to test what temperature do the portals get when you drive them for hours and hours and hours on the freeway. So this is all just kind of getting started. We're going to put some initial miles on this. We're going to use the crap out of it. I'm going to enjoy the truck again, which I'm so excited to do. And then the next mods list is already starting to get put down on paper. While shooting this last bit of the Re-Girth over the last few weeks, I've also been building a greenhouse back here for my other channel. The channel is called Dirt Lifestyle Hunt and Homestead. And as you can see, so far I've got the shell done. We still have a ton of work to do on this thing, but it's coming together and we have a greenhouse now. So if you're into that kind of thing, you want to see, I've got a turkey hunting trip planned soon. I'm going to be doing fishing. I'm going to be doing lots of like homestead projects like this, gardening, all that. If you're into that, check out the channel. I have 0 content on there so far. I just have the channel as live, and I have like a short so you know that you found the right place. But here in the next couple months, I'm probably going to post like 3 or 4 videos all in one shot so you can see what the channel's all about and decide if it's the kind of stuff that you're into. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.